Alzheimer's disease gained its name from Alois Alzheimer, a German psychiatrist who studied with Emil Kraepelin, the foremost psychiatrist in Europe at the time, and the person most responsible for trying to bring some sort of scientific rigor and categorization system for psychiatric disorders. Later in his training, Alzheimer joined Kraepelin to work in his clinic in Munich, where he developed his skills in not only caring for patients, but also examining tissue samples using this new technique called photomicroscopy. In addition to a research scientist, though, Alzheimer was also a practicing physician. And in 1901, he began treating a German housewife named Auguste Deter, who experienced a precipitous decline in her cognitive functioning and her overall functioning, much more difficult for her to take care of herself, beginning in her early 50s. Her symptoms weren't that unusual from those that you would see in people in their 70s and their 80s. But because her symptoms started at such a young age, Alzheimer was very interested in studying her, and he did so very carefully, keeping detailed observations and notes on his case over many years. Ms. Deter died in 1906 due to an infection, and Alzheimer examined her brain using these new techniques, and Alzheimer saw what has become the core features of AD: amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles inside the neurons of her brain, and the death of neurons in certain parts of the brain. And I'll talk about those two characteristic features in a moment. Alzheimer himself wasn't really sure whether Deter's symptoms were due to the same cause as the cognitive and functional decline that you saw in people in their 70s and their 80s, which was referred to at the time as senile dementia. But in 1910, in the first edition of Kraepelin's textbook, Clinical Psychiatry, Kraepelin did use the term Alzheimer disease and gave the name of Alzheimer to this disease for the first time. Interest in the disease then waned during the early 20th century, primarily due to the World War, where the world's attention shifted from the laboratory to the war effort for obvious reasons. But attention to it gradually came back after the wars were over and people were living longer and more people were developing Alzheimer's dementia, raising its visibility and concern among scientists and public health officials.